Welcome to Extinguishing Burnout, an on-purpose way out of the vicious cycle for medical professionals. This is the second module in a series of 3. Hello, my name is Kara Barr, and I'm a certified life coach. If you've already watched Module 1, we've met. Welcome back. If you haven't watched Module 1, it might be best to go back and view these in order. If you don't have time, please just continue on. Prior to becoming a life coach, I worked as a registered surgical nurse, occupational health nurse, and I worked in corporate health and wellness. I still retain my nursing license and have a particular interest in helping my nursing and physician colleagues who are grinding it out every day in hospitals and clinics around the world. I've watched for years and briefly experienced burnout myself. And now, with the onset of COVID, the burden of being on your game, ready to go all the time, ready to flow all the time, all the new PPE, rules, processes, and new and different everything, you're feeling pressures you've likely never felt before. I hope these modules get you started on a path toward minimizing the negative feelings and emotions that are seemingly brought on by burnout. It's my intent to talk about some things you may have never really thought about before and help you find immediate relief. Sometimes the negative thoughts and emotions that you have experienced can be so ingrained that it may take more than a PowerPoint module to get you where you'd like to be. If you find that to be the case for you, please contact me through my website at raisethebarlifecoaching.com. Be sure to spell bar correctly, B-A-H-R, like my last name. So by now, again, you should have watched Module 1. If not, keep going if you want to. But we're ready to start learning about positive intelligence. Before we go further, as you work through these presentations, it would be helpful if you've completed 2 very brief assessments. Please go to www.positiveintelligence.com. Then locate the 2 assessments. One is for PQ score, one is for saboteur assessment. While you're there on the site, you'll notice the full course of Positive Intelligence is offered to the general public for $995. Because of my affiliation with Positive Intelligence, if you are interested in taking the full course, I can offer it to you for a drastically reduced price. All my contact information is shown on several slides throughout the presentation. Let's move on. By now, you're probably wondering, what exactly is this positive intelligence? You probably have evidence of your own that your mind is sometimes your best friend, but it is also your worst enemy. Positive intelligence measures the relative strength of these 2 modes of your mind, called your PQ score, or positive intelligence quotient. High positive intelligence means your mind acts as your friend far more than your enemy. Low positive intelligence is the reverse. Positive intelligence is therefore an indication of the control you have over your own mind and how well your mind acts in your best interest. For example, when your mind tells you that you should do your best to prepare for the important procedure you're going to perform tomorrow, it is acting as your friend. When it wakes you up at 3 a.m., anxious about the procedure and racing in a loop for the 100th time about the many consequences of failing, it is acting as your enemy. It is generating anxiety and suffering without any redeeming value. And there is a way to see which way you are functioning most of the time. So hopefully you found time to take the 2 assessments, and those include the PQ score and the saboteur assessment. The PQ score and the saboteur assessment are tools developed by Shirzad Chamine and are explained in full detail in his book called Positive Intelligence. For now, just know that a PQ score of 75 is a critical tipping point. Above 75, you are typically being uplifted by the internal dynamics of the mind, and below it, you are constantly being dragged down by those dynamics. The way to raise that score is to work on weakening your saboteurs and strengthening your wise sage. We'll learn about the most common saboteurs first, as you did when you took the assessment, and about the 5 powers of the sage before we move to the simple techniques you can use every day in all aspects of your life to function at a higher PQ. I wonder if you were surprised by your top saboteurs, or maybe not too surprised. In short, the 10 common saboteurs we want to talk about and weaken are the judge, avoider, controller, hyperachiever, hyperrational, hypervigilant, the pleaser, restless, stickler, and the victim. And the 5 powers of the sage we want to strengthen are explore, empathize, innovate, navigate, and activate. After we've got a firm grip on the saboteurs in sage, we'll focus on strengthening your PQ brain muscles so you can stay in a PQ of 75 or greater most or all of the time. Okay, let's talk a little bit about these saboteurs. Our initial aim in exploring our saboteurs is not to develop a deep psychological understanding of their roots. Our focus is more on the current manifestation of their thoughts and feelings in ourselves and how they sabotage us today. They're sneaky and also have just become habits in a way, so they've become your go-to way of reacting. We rely on what we can consciously observe in ourselves. We are the only animals on the planet who have this ability. We have such an amazingly strong prefrontal cortex. We're the only animals that do. We actually have the ability to watch ourselves think. That is, we can be a bystander, sort of up here, looking down on what we are thinking. It is a very underused gift of the human. You're going to learn a way to access that. This then will automatically result in discoveries about your saboteur's deeper and even subconscious roots in due course. There is much more to each saboteur than what is presented on the next 2 slides. The descriptions are by no means exhaustive. They are intended to provide you with the overall flavor of each saboteur. You will find that your own experience conforms to some, but not all, the characteristics of any given saboteur. Each saboteur, in addition to its description, has its own typical thoughts, feelings, characteristics, justification lies, and individual impact on oneself and on others. You bet. These saboteurs have conveniently led you to believe that all your successes are because of them, and that without them, you would struggle. You are likely to occasionally exhibit the characteristics of several of these saboteurs. You'll definitely find that you have 1 or 2 particularly strong saboteurs, but you may also exhibit each and every one at different times. Don't worry, you're perfectly normal. If you'd like to delve more deeply into all the things going on with your personal saboteurs, we can certainly cover them in some one-on-one life coaching sessions. For now, let's go through a quick descriptor of each saboteur. First of all, the judge. This guy is the master saboteur. The judge finds fault with self, others, and circumstances. He or she causes much of our disappointment, anger, regret, guilt, shame, and anxiety. The judge also loves to call upon and activate accomplice saboteurs. In medicine, you might see this manifest after a patient dies with thoughts of, I should have done this, or I should have done that. Or you might feel very angry that your interventions did not save the patient. Let's talk about the avoider. The avoider focuses on the positive and pleasant, but in an extreme way, thus allowing us to avoid difficult and unpleasant tasks and conflicts. An example here would be a caretaker avoiding having a patient do their physical therapy because the patient complains of pain with movement. The controller. This guy exhibits an anxiety-based need to take charge and control situations and people's actions in order to bend them to one's own will. Therefore, when control is not possible, the high anxiety and impatience grows. You might have a very set way of scheduling appointments or with making rounds, and you might notice extreme irritation or discomfort when that routine is disrupted. The hyperachiever is dependent on constant performance and achievement for self-respect and self-validation. This high focus on external success leads to unsustainable workaholic tendencies and loss of touch with deeper emotional and relationship needs. This might be something you see in your work environment when someone keeps on working harder and doing more and more to get that external accolade, all at the cost of everything else. The hyperrational relies on intense and exclusive focus on the rational processing of everything, including relationships, and can be perceived as cold, distant, and intellectually arrogant. It would be easy in medicine to slip into this behavior. After all, you've learned the rationality behind so much, really everything in your training, and you rely on it. It could actually feel comforting to you to try and rationalize relationships too. The hypervigilant has continuous, intense anxiety about all the dangers in life and a strong focus on what could go wrong. This is a vigilance that can never rest. Of course, you want to be vigilant at your job. You're going to learn about keeping your hand on the hot stove in a few slides, and this is similar to remaining hypervigilant about everything all the time. The pleaser. The pleaser consistently makes an indirect attempt to gain acceptance and affection by helping, pleasing, rescuing, or flattering others. This often results in losing sight of one's own needs and becoming resentful as a result. You want to help others in medicine. That's why you chose it as a profession. This saboteur is about taking that a bit too far. You volunteer for everything. You agree to miss out on sleep, family activities, and much more in order to help or please others. The restless is constantly in search of greater excitement in the next activity or in constant busyness and is rarely at peace or content with the current activity. This may look like the medical professional who doesn't quite finish things or would rather move on to the next bigger and brighter and shiny object in medicine. The stickler demands perfectionism and a need for order and organization, but taken way too far. This might sound great, and to a point it certainly is. If this saboteur is given too much strength, however, tasks may not get completed because the person has to have it be done to absolute perfection. It can actually force things to a halt, or at the very least, slow them down. The victim uses an emotional and temperamental style to gain attention and affection. Often, the victim has an extreme focus on internal feelings, particularly painful ones, and possesses rather a martyr streak. This saboteur is pretty obvious when we see it in others, but can be less easy to spot in ourselves. Some of you may be thinking, but I like my saboteurs. Without them, I would never get anything done. I would never be able to motivate others to get stuff done. I would miss important things. I wouldn't be the most favorite doctor, son, child, etc. So of course you like them. After all, they've helped you survive. The formation of the saboteurs begins to make clear sense once you realize that the primary objective of the first 15 to 20 years of life is to survive long enough to pass on your genes. In that sense, we aren't much different from a sea turtle hatchling shuffling their way toward the safety of the ocean as soon as they break out of their shells. The human child has a component beyond physical survival. We need to survive emotionally. The human brain is wired to pay close attention to our environment in our early years and adjust accordingly so we can deal with the emotional strains of life and make it to adulthood. Whether you had a tough childhood or a great childhood, life still presented many challenges that your saboteurs were initially developed to handle. And your saboteurs became your buddies. This is, however, a lie of the saboteur. Your saboteur does its greatest damage if it convinces you that it's your friend and you accept it into your inner circle. Each saboteur has some very reasonable sounding justifications for its actions, but these are all well-masked lies. Again, some of them would tell you that without them, you would be lazy, unambitious, or complacent. The lie is that your greatest success comes through them. Here's another example. Let's say you've just missed something in a diagnosis or in reading of an X-ray or a blood panel. Your judge beats you up over it and causes you to feel guilty, angry, or remorseful. Its distressing messages keep hounding you and keep you up at night, worried about what happened and the consequences. It scares you into working really hard to make sure the mistake doesn't happen again. Next time around, you will have real anxiety about not messing up, and you might do better, but you will have paid a high emotional toll along the way. Moreover, your high distress actually makes you more likely to make other mistakes while anxiously focusing on not repeating your original error. It might help to relate to a metaphor. When you put your hand on a hot stove, your saboteurs and your survivor brain react immediately, as they should, to protect you. But then you take your hand off the hot stove. You don't leave it there to suffer further. Similarly, negative feelings are helpful to alert you to important things. However, if you stay in negative emotion, you're keeping your hand on the hot stove and sabotaging your ability to respond optimally. A key to mental fitness is how quickly you can recover from negative to positive response. The sage offers a very different approach. This sage perspective will empathize with you and reassure you that even though you made a mistake, you are still a wonderful person. It tells you to have compassion for yourself because we're all fallible human beings. It tells you that everything, even your mistakes, can be turned into gifts and opportunities by the way you react to them. Now, because you're feeling better and not beaten up, you are less defensive and more likely to take a good look at your mistake and explore what really happened. The sage might then have you come up with creative solutions for how you could do better next time and prevent even bigger mistakes. With the sage perspective, you are more likely to be creative because your PQ brain regions are activated. These regions are far more creative than the survivor brain where the judge lives. At the end of this process of empathizing with yourself, exploring and creating solutions, you will be energized to take decisive action and to do better. You won't have wasted 1 ounce of vitality and energy beating yourself up. The sage perspective is about accepting what is rather than denying, rejecting, or resenting what is. The sage and its 5 powers can meet every challenge, no matter how momentous or daunting. It meets challenges in a way that results in the best outcome, while at the same time generating positive emotions and minimizing negativity and stress. We all have the 5 powers, and we've all demonstrated them at some time. The problem is that our typical use of these powers is often polluted by a great deal of saboteur interference. And they often lose much of their impact because of that. Let's meet the essence of the 5 sage powers now. Empathy is about feeling and showing appreciation, compassion, and forgiveness. Empathy has 2 targets, yourself and others. Deeper empathy for yourself typically makes it possible to have deeper empathy for others. For most people, having true empathy for oneself is the hardest thing to do. Why is that? You guessed it, the judge's pervasive interference. The pure energy and emotion that the sage's explore mode generates is based in curiosity, openness, wonder, and fascination with what is being explored. A strong sage can activate this exploration mindset even in the midst of a great crisis. The sage way of exploration has a childlike curiosity and fascination in discovery. While the explore power is about discovering what is The innovate power concerns inventing what isn't. True innovation is about breaking out of the boxes, assumptions, and habits that hold us back. Navigate is about choosing between various paths and alternatives based on a consistent internal compass. The coordinates on this compass are your deeply held values, and navigating with this compass will generate fulfillment from living a life in alignment with those values. And finally, the Sage's activate power moves you into pure action, where all your mental and emotional energies are laser focused on action and not distracted by saboteurs. This puts to rest any worry that accepting the Sage's attitude of accepting everything as a gift and opportunity will lead to passiveness, laziness, and lack of ambition. With this power, exactly the opposite is true. Not every challenge needs all 5 powers. For example, if you have a medical emergency, a bleeder in surgery, a cardiac arrest, you will want to just activate your procedure for solving this emergency. When the solution is obvious, you don't need to innovate. You don't always need to consult your Sage's power to navigate. Once you activate your Sage, you will know which power to use and when. I know this is true of us folks in the medical field. There are times when you just know something is off with a patient, something is wrong, something different needs to be done. That is your Sage. That is your Sage removing all of the input from the saboteurs that might have you stick to the usual treatment. And it helps you to activate into doing something different. You felt it and reacted on it before. Your Sage will also allow you to experience the Sage feelings of curiosity, compassion, creativity, joy, and peace, and see for yourself that your saboteurs are never necessary to meet any challenge, despite the lies they have been telling you to justify their existence. Most of us think there are certainly things in life that cannot be turned into a gift or opportunity. The 3 gifts technique can help you shift into the Sage perspective. It can help shake you out of the certainty of your judge perspective so you can at least consider the Sage. This technique challenges you to come up with at least 3 scenarios where your bad situation could be turned into a gift or opportunity. Consider this circumstance. Your shift is supposed to end at 3:30. You've been working 10 plus hours. The hospital is full, but several more patients were just admitted. You cannot leave. You can't go do what you had planned to do this evening. Scenario 1. This could be your chance to try new methods of triage. You can hone your skills to work more efficiently and share those skills with new physicians and nurses who may be learning from you. Scenario 2. This could be what makes you write that proposal for more coverage in your area of the hospital, the one you've hesitated to write. Scenario 3. This could make your staff or coworkers more cohesive as a team, as you all realize the importance of your work and that you cannot do it without each other. Are you skeptical? I get it. Let me add, accepting a bad outcome as a gift does not mean inviting more of it or doing nothing about it. For example, you don't want to continuously work short-staffed or long hours, but once it has happened, any amount of time and energy spent on anger, blame, regret, or worry is completely wasted. If you decide to actively turn the problem into a gift, you can more clearly examine how and why it happened so you can prevent it in the future, or have it be the chance to practice medicine in a new way, being more resourceful and creative. Now, you don't always have to actively turn a bad situation into a gift. Your other option 2, is to just let it go and put it behind you without any residue of unhappiness, regret, or distress. It is easier to do this once you really come to believe the Sage perspective. If you'd like to delve more deeply into all things going on with your Sage, we can certainly cover those in some one-on-one life coaching sessions. The story of Candy Lightner might be the ultimate demonstration of finding a gift and opportunity in the midst of a tragedy. In 1980, Candy Lightner encountered this great tragedy. On a sunny Saturday morning in California, her 13-year-old daughter, Carrie, posed for her softball team photos in her orange and white uniform. She then started walking with a friend to a church carnival she'd been looking forward to attending. The carnival was within Carrie's sight when she was hit and killed by a drunk driver who had been previously convicted 3 times of driving under the influence of alcohol. Many, perhaps most, in Candy Lightner's shoes would have lived the rest of their lives victimized by this loss. She, however, activated her sage perspective instead. 4 days after her daughter's death, Candy said, "I promised myself on the day of Carrie's death that I would fight to make this needless homicide count for something positive in the year ahead." She then founded Mothers Against Drunk Driving. By doing so, she turned the tragedy of her daughter's short life into a program that would eventually save countless lives. Of course, it takes an incredibly strong sage to do what Candy Lightner did. With increased strength, the sage muscle can always regain control and help you turn negative things in the world into positive forces. We can't always control or choose much of what happens in work and life. We can, however, determine the impact that these events have on us by choosing how we respond. It isn't necessary that you instantly recognize saboteur thoughts by name and think through their characteristics and have hard thinking about it. In fact, the opposite is true. The way of the sage is that of ease and flow. You can fairly easily recognize when a saboteur is in charge of your thinking by the way you feel. If the feeling is kind of icky, it is from a saboteur. It's really that simple. So when you feel the icky, pause briefly, congratulate yourself for catching your saboteur who is up to no good. Try to call upon one of the powers of the sage. Any one of them will usually suffice as long as you make the switch. There are lots more saboteur personas we speak of than there are sage, but this is because the sage is so much more powerful. Once you dismiss the saboteur thought, no matter how many or which one have moved on to a sage thought, you have won the game. It sometimes helps people to have a mental picture of their overarching sage. If that mind picture is so empathetic and so large and so powerful, when you call it to mind, the saboteurs do not stand a chance. Your main takeaway from this module is to practice recognizing saboteur thoughts and replacing them with sage thoughts. If you are even able to get to this phase of intercepting the saboteur, you will find it easy to catch on to and use the operating system you are about to learn in Module 3. Your brain is the most powerful tool on the planet. There is no amount of money that could ever buy it or reproduce it. Managing your brain and the thoughts within it is the most important thing you will ever do to create your desired results. And none of our traditional education teaches it. So if you'd like to learn more about how our saboteur and sage brains work and take that learning to the next level, please go to my website and schedule a free discovery session. I can more fully explain what continued coaching with me can look like. There are 4 different packages you might be interested in, and if none of them interest you, we'll still have a great conversation. This slide and the discussion on this slide is the same as in Module 1, so if you'd like to skip it and move on, there's no more new content in this module. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in Module 3. If you haven't heard this slide before, let me say a few words on life coaching. A life coach is an objective professional. It is great to have friends with whom to share your problems and thoughts and emotions, but taking advice from family or friends is not always a good idea. Sometimes friends don't tell us the truth because they don't want to hurt our feelings, risk losing our friendship, or just don't know what the best advice is to offer. When emotions get involved, we often make poor decisions. Certified coaches do not shy away from this. We work in the present toward the future objectives. A coach remains with the client to help integrate the changes and to make sure the goal really happens. Coaches also have an ability to see things from afar, like a tennis pro watching your swing. We can point out what you can't see and what's not working. There are all types of coaches, and many coaches offer various services. I, for example, offer solutions for professionals who feel burned out or stuck in a profession they used to love. Most coaching clients are healthy, successful people who want to make a change and require the support of a personal coach to do so. One of the biggest challenges for accomplished, driven, and curious people is getting unstuck when normal ways of solving a problem aren't working. Coaches can shed light on these tough situations and point you to those inner resources you've lost touch with. We help people move forward, set personal goals, professional goals, help sharpen skills, motivate, increase self awareness, or just be a sounding board for difficult decisions. A coach will help break through limiting beliefs and challenge you to think bigger. Clients get more done than they would on their own. Just like working out with a trainer at the gym, you work much harder than you would on your own. Coaches know how to help you use your own natural, creative inner resources to help yourself. You may start with the best intentions, but then hit a snag, which can stop you completely or cause a long delay. Coaches can work through blocks quickly to help you achieve greater productivity with less effort and in less time. Many of you are either already doing or are ready to do something bigger and more meaningful, but believe you must sacrifice your health, relationships, and time. None of this is necessary. Although a coach is not a miracle worker, we do have a large toolbox to help your dreams become reality. My life coaching is delivered one-on-one in person, by phone, or online, and delivered in 1-hour sessions. I'm currently working with clients privately, one-on-one via Zoom. I'd love for you to visit my website, learn more about the options you see on the screen, and most definitely schedule a free discovery session. Thank you for watching this module, and I'll see you in Module 3.